I also made this movie in a lot of ways for like, I think a younger version of myself that like didn't have movies where I like saw someone who looked like me as like an object of desire or as this like iconic sort of like Bridget Bardot. Like I think the most powerful thing for me is when I meet young brown girls or South Asian girls or whatever, and they're just like so hyped about it. And I think because they, we just had like Mississippi Masala and like Bend It Like Beckham. Like that's it. Like that's nothing. So I think that like I hope it creates pathways for there to just be more work that is like allowing artists to be whatever identity they are, but not have to explain it to the audience and get to just be like hot and fun.
Okay, so I feel like there's a decent amount in the press that I've seen about like your origin story. This is your debut feature, but for those who don't know, maybe you could tell us a little bit about like what led you to write this film and the 8-year process of making it.
Yeah, so I grew up in, I'm going to start when I'm a child, I guess. I grew up in Nashville, Tennessee, and I'm really starting early. Sorry, I don't know how deep we're.
How much did you weigh at birth?
I don't know. I don't remember. I wasn't really cognizant then. And as a kid, we rented movies all the time. My mom really preferred we rent movies from the library because it was free. So when I was really young, we rented a lot of John Waters movies. But I'm a Cheerleader. This grave Cemetery Man, like a lot of weird movies from the library that we kind of could just watch. And I think my parents were like, oh, it's educational. Like we didn't have a lot of chaperoning, I guess, around that. And I always had this feeling of like, this is what I want to do. I want to make these types of movies. And then I grew up, was never really a good student. So I went to acting school, got into New York City, and was like, now I'm going to make these weird movies. And that just like wasn't happening at all. It was like Law and Order, The Blacklist, whatever. So it was very procedural. And so I was feeling very frustrated, I think, as an actor and as an artist of just like, where are these weird, fun, irreverent, magical, larger than life movies like I grew up with? And so that was like one part of it. And also I think, being an actor in that era, it was like very heavy on the like headscarf girl, hijab, like, being brown. It was a lot of like, you're going to be the doctor or like the Muslim character. And so I was like, where I just want to be the slutty, hot ingenue girl. So this is like, we're getting to the moment here. So then in 2017, I talked with a psychic because I was sick, and she was like, it's your boyfriend. He's making you sick. If you don't break up with him, you're going to get more sick. I know. And you're not going to have the career you're supposed to have. So I like hung up with her and called Steven, and I was like, hey, we have to break up because of the psychic. And so then I felt insane. And I was heartbroken. And so I kind of just wrote this movie out of this like accumulation of like all of these feelings of like frustration, heartbreak, when can I play this girl? And I also was like really obsessed with Nights of Kyberia, the film, and Sweet Charity. So that's it. That's how it came to be.
And Tim, when did you come into the process?
I was on hiatus for an HBO show I was working on at the time, and I did a short film that our friend Emma directed that Annapurna was already cast in. I got sucked into to produce because the other producer was stuck on another project. And at the wrap party of that short film, Francois was also in that film, who plays a mechanic at the end of the movie. And Annapurna showed me this incredible handmade zine pitch deck that was like mixed media she had made on her scanner. And I was like, this looks incredible, like we should make this. And then Francois was like, you gotta come talk to her, like the whole thing is in her head. And we had like it was like tacos or something, and I just sat there as she just narrated basically how she wants to direct the entire movie, even though she wasn't even planning to direct it at that time. And I was like, well, I guess we're doing this. How are we going to do this? Like, this is, you know. And then 6 years later.
I just want to add, you know, I like was an actor. I guess I'm still an actor, and I just would like proselytize my movie. Like when you wrote it, I was just everywhere I went. I was like, I have the script. I have the script. Francois was one of the only people who like read it and like took me seriously. And then at the rap party, he convinced him, and then we were like on board. We were fucked up, but we were like on board. And I was like, how serious is this? But it's true, but it's true. Like I was like, I just want a job as an actor, and Tim was like, no, I think you're a director, and so I had to sort of like overcome a lot of, I think insecurity and imposter syndrome to like feel comfortable and confident doing that. But Tim was really the one who pushed it.
As a writer, she had more of the movie in her head, and she had more vision than a lot of the writer-directors, at least in indie, that I had ever worked with. So I was like, even if another director was to come in here, it would just become, and like her vision was, I mean, you see it. So why wouldn't you do that?
Yeah, the vision is clear for sure. I mean, we don't get to see a lot of movies like this anymore. You're right. And I mean, one, it's because it's so hard to make a movie. And I feel like a lot of what happens is that, you know, when you're like butting up against trying to get funds to finance something, there's a lot of questions about how the movie can be appealing in a mainstream way. And so I'm curious, you know, for filmmakers out there who are maybe watching this, like, how did you navigate, you know, getting people on board for something that maybe it wasn't as easy to explain in the way that like big money Hollywood is looking for?
I mean, it was really hard. I think I got really used to people saying, like, you probably can't do this, you can't call it this, you can't have these scenes. Like, it was I think a lot of, you know, people were very unsure, or, you know, I think also being a first-time director, you know, you're not really tested. So I think there's a lot of anxiety or just, like, concern maybe people have of, like, can you really do these scenes? I am really stubborn. I think that like the more that people were like, you can't do this, the more I felt like we have to do it now. And it really became like my religion. And I think that we have this saying of like finding your spiritual warriors. And I think finding the department heads and the actors and the people that were game and got it, it sort of became like you have to find those people who want to play in that way, and then like hold on to them really tightly. But it took us a long time to get money. It took us a long time to go from like, you know, bringing Tim on board to like shooting the movie. And then it took us 2 years to get through post. And even then we had to like raise more money. It's just you're like a salesman in a way. Yeah. And so it's a really hard process. That's it just takes a lot of, I've always been an atheist, but it really became like, this is just my religion, and I just have to like have faith in this, and I have to just like, you know, just push forward like it's gonna happen.
How does it feel to have so many new converts to the religion of Fucktoys now? Because I imagine there are more every day.
Yeah, we're just making these sluts. We're just churning them out. I don't know. I think that like, you know, I also made this movie in a lot of ways for like, I think a younger version of myself that like didn't have movies where I like saw someone who looked like me as like an object of desire, or as this like iconic sort of like Bridget Bardot. Like I wanted her to feel like, you know, girls who aren't white or don't fit into this like beauty standard can have this film. So I think that like my hope is that it opens paths for other filmmakers who maybe don't fit into like a mold per se, but you know, or exist. and that there's like, you know, I think the most powerful thing for me is when I meet young brown girls or South Asian girls or whatever, and they're just like so hyped about it. And I think because they, you know, we just had like Mississippi Masala and like Bend It Like Beckham, like that's it, like that's nothing, you know. So I think that like I hope it creates pathways for there to just be more work that is like allowing artists to be whatever identity they are, but not have to explain it to the audience and get to just be like hot and fun.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, you have this unique perspective, and there's this, like, at least in the media compared to everything else. And I also wonder how you dealt with kind of like, I guess, the sexual aspects of it, like I feel like there are people who would watch this and really, maybe they're not quite liberated in some ways, or haven't experienced certain like sexual awakenings. But I feel like I'm just curious how you thought about like translating, sex work and humor and class differences and all of these things in this really playful way on screen without having, people. I'm sure there were people who were like, but this is serious, or like she's being taken advantage of in this way or that way, and this is are you trying to say that's funny? Like, I'm just curious about how you navigated all of that.
Yeah, I think when I wrote it, I wasn't really thinking about the bigger conversations and themes. I was just writing down shit that was happening in my life that I thought was funny, that like, and I think that, like I would have a moment, in a situation and just like sort of zoom out of myself and be like, this would be such a funny scene in a movie. Like he's sucking on my tongue and then he's falling asleep. Like what's happening? Like, and so I worked in a club and like men would say crazy things and I would just like go in my notes app and like write it down. So it was like, a lot of it just felt kind of like, to me, I was an actor, so I was reading a lot of scripts and I felt like, this is the shit you can't make up. That's so random, but also I think so human. And I've always, I feel very empathetic to all of my characters. Like I really wanted to make sure, I'm going to depict these scenes, but I'm not going to try to like vilify anyone. Like every character gets to have humanity. And like Robert, for example, played by Damian Young, to me is like so tragic,
so good,
so like beautiful, and the same even with like the Francois' character at the end. I think he's like deeply insecure, and so I think that for me, I was always interested in like intimacy and like sexuality, but really I'm like these moments like before sex or after sex where you're kind of stripped bare and you're like, was that good? Do you like me? What are we? That moment I actually think is so vulnerable and really intense and charged and fun to explore. So I was like more interested in that, I think, in either like the foreplay or the like afterplay, I guess.
Yeah.
And like the actual
like
like fucking was like less of a, like I'm less interested in that than I am in like the insecurity you feel or the like, whatever it is, moment.
Yeah, the moments between, sort of strangers where you're suddenly so close.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's cool. I don't know. I mean, Damian Young, I was so excited when I saw him. He's so great. I mean, the cast in general is really, really fun. I saw some New Orleans extras that I recognized from the stand-up comedy scene also.
Oh, yeah, Matt?
Yes.
Yeah.
But could maybe one or both of you talk a little bit about the casting process? Because obviously this is like, we're meeting so many characters and they got to be characters. So
yeah. Well, I kind of didn't realize making an indie film, having 20 locations and like 28 actors was like not an easy thing. I was like, oh yeah, like my friends will come for a day. We'll pay them one day rate. Like it's super chill, so I didn't fully, appreciate the difficulty of the, that logistics thing. But
it's not 3 people in an apartment, that's for sure.
Yeah. But, I was really adamant when Tim and I met, being, I think, a sort of underseen or just being an actor that like never had like my moment to pop. I was like, more than anything, these actors are out there. They're all in New York. Like the theater actors, like they're out there. Like I want to cast as many trained, like really solid actors who can just like bring it and, choose like prioritize that over trying to get like a name or a celebrity in the film. And luckily like our initial financing wasn't like cast contingent. So we had that flexibility and we auditioned people. Yeah.
I mean, we definitely turned down There were times that there was like a celebrity that was interested in playing Robert, but I mean he was not right for it. Even before we went to New Orleans, there was an actor that was interested in playing Danny, and there was a promise from a very prominent manager. But I guess who all these people are, but that we could get UTA packaging like $2-3 million, but they were always wrong, and so. Annapurna, especially later when it was starting to feel a little dire with some of the casting, was like, should we? And I was like, if it's your debut feature, like, I don't really think these people aren't A-listers, so they're not really going to sell the movie like that. I think you should just prioritize the actual casting, because that seems to be the one thing that nobody is doing, because the agencies have spent so much time making sure that certain actors get into certain movies, and that there's a place for that, obviously, but for this type of movie, I mean, if you don't do that, like, how can you? It's called Fucktoys. Like, are we serious? Like, so I was just like, just cast the actors that you think are best, and the financiers are not breathing down our necks about it. So let's just do that. That's what we did.
How do we get from that to Big Frida?
Yeah.
Oh, so. This one time
that was like a wish upon a star. Like, what if we could get her, but we were in New Orleans for a full year. We shot in 4 different units. It's like, what is happening? And so I'll let you tell the meat of the story, but basically we were like, oh, what if we get her, and then
this one time in the backstage of Republic, I drank all of Frida's peach Ciroc. She still doesn't know that was me.
She might know.
A friend of mine from school was a manager of the band, the Soul Rebels. Now he works for Blue Note, but I had actually met Reed, Frida's manager, years and years ago. And whenever you go to New Orleans and things happen, and we really wanted Frida, really from like as an offer from really early, but we just weren't kind of a big enough movie yet. And so kind of one of the silver linings of the movie getting so smacked around by COVID was that because there were going to be other units, we could show all this work. And so we showed that to their team, and they were like, this looks amazing, actually. I was like, yes, I know. And so they gave me like options for 3 days. This is right before Beyonce's album came out. But
first we went to Tipitina's with Reed, and we got shit-faced with Reed, and then he was like, Frida will do the movie.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. That is what happened. I wasn't going to call Reed out for that, but hi, Reed. But I think, he was like, if you can make it work within the dates, and like we can make it happen. And so I had to build a unit that was just one day in August. And we had to leave that raft a few different times because, New Orleans thunderstorms just roll through, and you have to leave, you have to wait, and then you go back. And it worked out. And then Frida got on a plane and flew to New York to do the album release party with Beyonce and Donald Glover. And we were just like, thank you for being here.
Yeah.
That's awesome. She's really good at it.
She's amazing.
She's so
she
good
never
at it.
complained. She had 4 pages of like monologues. And I was like, we'll shoot this however we'll shoot it 1 line at a time, like whatever you want, like we'll do it. And she was awesome.
It was the week that Break My Soul was #1 in the country.
Wow. Yeah.
We were like in a rented
I'm sure she was like, why am I here? Like, why did they agree to do this?
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, so the thing that I really am just obsessed with every time I watch it is like the world building. The world building is so good, and it's something you don't see in people's first features that much, because I mean it takes a lot, and like I'm just curious how I don't know, I guess I just want to hear about it. I mean, like when you thought about Trash Town, what did that mean to you originally? Like how did it evolve over time? Yeah.
Well, it's kind of like America. It's a outlet symbolism. No, I don't know. I think that like I think that there's a couple things. I wanted there to be this like whimsy, this like kind of humor to the world. I'm from the South, so there's a lot of like pre-millennium, like when I was a teenager, when I was the most potent, you could say, as like a hormonal person, thinking about like what Nashville and like Tennessee looked like growing up, and sort of like celebrating, when you're a kid and you go and explore like an abandoned like warehouse, or there's like that little main street that still feels like it's from the 1950s, or your friend's house that feels like there's sort of this. So sorry, I'm like, inarticulate right now. I think there is sort of this idea of like childhood and nostalgia and familiarity to America that I wanted to tap into, and this like kind of Pee-wee's Big Adventure, you know, nowhere, this sort of larger than life world that was homage to the movies that I was sort of making this love letter for. And I thought, if it's Trash Town, if everything's made out of trash, trash is free, this is a low budget movie, this is like a solve for production design that we can just like, you know, if we can't buy it, just find it and spray paint something. You know, it was sort of like, it's Trash Town. Like, it could become like, just put a trash bag there, or just throw some shit there. And it's, you know, so I think there was sort of this like element of like, this might help us solve the budget issues. Like, you know, if we can't get whatever location, we can like always put it under the sort of rule of like, well, it's Trash Town, so that's the way it looks here. And giving that sort of freedom to then sort of make the rules for the world whatever we want it to be, that like kind of also works within the budget. But we drove from basically Nashville to Miami and back, just like all around the South, taking pictures, looking at things like overpasses, highways, dumpsters next to fields, like sort of this like mashup of like the beauty of nature in America, but then the way we just like put random buildings or like metal like it's just sort of this mashup, I guess. But I think driving around the country, I always feel like every time we are in a state, you'll hit like a random pocket that you're like, oh, this is Trash Town. And it's sort of like the Springfield in The Simpsons. It's sort of like this thing we can all relate to, but it's just not really ever been put on film.
Yeah, the guys in the hazmat suits who are everywhere is like, I love that. When did that idea come to you?
Yeah, the film, I wanted there to be some symbolic visual representation of class, and they're a little homage to Brazil and the little hazmat suits playing volleyball in Brazil. But also, I just wanted there to be something that's like reminding us of like labor and this like tedious, banal, sort of thankless, dehumanizing labor that just exists constantly in society. And it's very much, I think, also placing the privilege of my character of like, she could be here, but she's not. So I think that was like part of it. And they're kind of cute. They kind of are like, I also think add a little bit of this like whimsy and this sort of I don't know, they kind of add a little reverence as well to the world. I don't know, I'm looking at you if you want to add anything.
I mean, it's crazy. Like, now we've heard interpretations from people that we didn't, I mean, I guess it wasn't the intent, but, you know, there are people that think that, like, they're not real and she just imagines them. And then there's people that think they're like, angelic characters.
Part
And
of the curse.
yeah, or like, you know, or they're part of the, or there was that one where it was just like they're symbolic of the curse. But yeah, I think it was really just about like,
but also any interpretations, right? Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. I mean, I love that they're in one of the tarot cards, right? At the beginning. Yeah. That's so cool. Yeah. It's just it's so thoughtful. Everything is so thought out. It's like, it's amazing. She'll take it.
Sorry.
She'll take it when she's ready.
Yeah,
Okay, so Sadie, right, who plays Danny, can we talk about Sadie a little bit, because she's so good. How was that casting process?
I had seen Sadie in a play, I want to say in 2018, and they auditioned for the movie. We were sort of trying to figure out who to cast for that part, and sort of like what gender to cast for that part. Like, it could go in any direction. And they auditioned and they came out as non-binary, and I was like, awesome. And they just like really loved it. They like DM'd me, they texted me, they were like emailing me, and I was like, fuck it, like, just, you should do it. You like, I don't know, I felt like they really want it. I know what that feels like to like really want something. And so I was like, I'm gonna give this person this like opportunity. And they're so you know, the character is kind of this like mix of this like archetype of the sort of drugstore cowboy crybaby, this sort of like greaser
Crybaby, yes.
Yeah, this sort of like
Forgot
bad
about
boy
Crybaby.
but also they kind of have this like My Own Private Idaho, like open, like baby lamb, sort of innocence. And I think Sadie just like had this like great blend of like the swagger and the like brooding sort of mystery, sex appeal, and this like sort of young, wide-eyed like cherub, just like angel. And I was like, whatever you want to wear, like they were binding at the time, so they did. I was like, yeah, let's do that. I was just like, I just want these cowboy boots and this like hat. Other than that, like whatever you want, like we can dress this however. And I just gave them a lot of freedom, and it was their first time as an actor, I think, playing a role that reflected their gender, how they felt in their body. So I was just like happy. I just want my actors to feel good and feel happy and sexy. So I'm like, whatever you feel good in, like that's what we're gonna do. So, and they killed it.
That's amazing. What a novel idea. That's great.
Yeah. No pencil skirts. Nothing like,
That's, I hadn't thought about the whole, the scene at the house and in the beginning is so crybaby. I kind of forgot about, what.
Yeah, like Iggy Pop's house in Crybaby.
Yes,
yes.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. That's so true. I had thought about several movies while I was watching it, but not Crybaby, which was, it's great. Well, I've been given the nod, so we must wrap up. I know it's sad.
Well, thank you all so much for coming.
Yeah, thank you all for being here. I'm sure they'd be happy to chat with you out in the lobby.
Outside, and we have gum.
Oh yeah, there's gum. There's free merch. Most importantly, please tell people you know about the movie. Tell them how much fun you had watching it and that they have to see it. And keep coming back to our screenings.
You always come up and talk to me or DM me if you have any questions or concerns. You heard anything?
Thank you.